Hello and welcome back to Desert DIY. If you are new here, my name is Corey. Today I'm going to be giving a rustic, country, shabby chic style makeover to this outdated old desk. It was in decent structural condition. I did not have to fix or repair anything other than the finish. You can see there's quite a bit of scratches on the top, and the chair was in great condition. I got this desk from somebody for free. It was part of a group of other things that I got for free, and I'm going to be making it over for a young teen who's going to be using it for her room for schoolwork or whatever she decides to use it for. And she sent me a picture of what she wanted it to look like, and I used only what I had on hand to make this happen so that I could keep the budget down. I ended up donating this to them. Now that I'm able to make an income off of YouTube, I'm able to give away a lot of these projects that I finish, and this is one of them. But when I do give them away, I try and do the most cost-effective makeover, and that also helps for my viewers who are watching this get an idea that you can recreate something without having to spend a bunch of money by using just what you have on hand or leftover pieces of things from other people's projects that they're going to get rid of. All I did was clean the desk really well using a magic eraser sponge. This also works as a deglosser and it gets rid of the shiny finish on this desk. Next, I used some leftover chalk paint that I had. It was just the Rust-Oleum brand chalked in the color Serenity Blue, and I used this because I wanted to just kind of prime the areas of this project where they were going to get the most use and wear before I put on the real paint that I'm going to use for this project. It also happens that I had a ton of this same color blue that I actually used to paint my sunroom, and you can see it in the background sometimes. But I used that paint to do this project, one, because it matched the picture that she sent me of what she wanted it to look like, and two, I had a huge 5-gallon bucket of it left over from when I had first renovated my house. And this paint is not any special brand. I literally mixed together a bunch of different colored paints that were left over from my sister fixing up her house before she sold it. So I literally mixed like brown and purple and bright turquoise blue and a ton of white and some off-white, and it turned into a color similar to this chalk paint that I'm using, and you will see it later on in the video. Something I want to mention is that I'm using just a regular art paintbrush for this. The reason I used a smaller paintbrush for this is because there was a lot of little edges and little pieces that I had to paint, so it made it easier to get those little details. And it also uses less paint when you use a smaller brush, so your paint can go a lot longer on the project when you use a smaller brush, especially if you're not using any kind of sponge brushes. Now I'm going to use my paint sprayer and use the paint that I was telling you about. I just put the paint inside my paint sprayer, do a little test spray first, and then I start spraying the project. You will need an air compressor to use a paint sprayer like this, and I bought this paint sprayer at, goodness, what is that place called? I can't remember. Oh, Harbor Freight. Why was that so hard to remember? Anyways, I kept getting clogs in my paint sprayer while I was painting this, and it was extremely hot outside this day as well. I think that has something to do with why my paint had some dried pieces in it and why it was clogging the filter on my paint sprayer. Also, this paint is very old, and I ended up having to water it down quite a bit. But as I was painting it, it was drying instantly, so I was able to do the second coat right away and also get to sanding it right away. But unfortunately, due to this heat, my camera overheated, so I did not get to film the part where I sprayed on my polyacrylic polyurethane. But it is the same way that I spray on polyurethane in any of my other projects. It's just plain old polyacrylic, and you just spray it on there the same way you sprayed on the paint that I just showed you. Once that's dry on the bottom, I went on with the sander on the top and I took off the finish. Now, again, like I said, I'm only using stuff that I had on hand. So the sandpaper that I'm using for this part was a 120 grit. 120 grit is not that great at removing finishes, especially thick oil-based finishes like this one had. So it'll get the job done. It just takes a lot longer than it would if you were to use a 60 or 80 grain, or 80 grit, sorry. An 80 grit sandpaper. Now with the 80 grit, it does leave a rougher finish, so you would be going over it again with a 220 just to give it that smooth, final, soft finish. And I do that anyways, even after using the 120 grit sandpaper. It's just something that you should always do when you're removing a finish using a rougher grit of sandpaper. Look at how great that turned out. It looks so good. Now I'm just going to use this blower attachment on my air compressor to get all the dust off. It goes by really quick when you do it this way versus using a rag, and it also gets almost all of it off, and rags usually leave behind a little bit of dust. And of course, it was so hot, I used the blower to get the dust off of me and to kind of blow my sweat because I was sweating so badly and this felt so great. The wood color I chose for the stain was Early American, one because I already had it on hand, and two because it matched the seat of the chair. So that is a lot less work for me. Sanding down a seat of a chair is really difficult because you have to get in between little areas and cracks and crevices, especially if you have a chair that has spindles on the back. Oh boy, I really don't like doing that. I would rather use a gel stain than sand that down. But with this piece, the seat was already a color that I had the stain of, so I just went with that color on the seat to help the two pieces still match. All that is going to be left is the clear coat, which I'm sorry I did not get on film, but it was the same exact process as spraying on the paint, which you already saw in the video. The clear coat that I used was polyacrylic, and it was a semi-gloss. I chose a semi-gloss because this is for a teen, and I want it to be very durable for her so that she could clean it if she ever makes a mess on here. You can literally clean this with Lysol wipes now. You don't need to even use a special wood cleaner. I kept the old wood stain on the top, and for the rest of it I went with a rustic, distressed, shabby chic look with the blue color that she really wanted, that she had sent me a picture of from Pinterest. I would show you it, but you know how it is with copyright things. I can't show what somebody has created in their blog that was on Pinterest on my channel. It would be unfair. So here it is. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can see more. I have tons and tons of these furniture flips coming up, and I would love to hear if there's something you would like to see that I have not done yet. Thank you for watching. Bye!